Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Awesome Cody. As usual, I'm your host, Cody, and today we are wrapping up January's theme of awesome comic book creators. So, for the folks who are just tuning in for the first time, this month I've been going over the last 3 weeks before this. I went over, I talked about Tom King, Matt Fraction, and Jonathan Hickman, and today, to wrap up the month, I'll be talking about Joe Casey. Joe Casey has had a long career. His career started out way back in the day, early days. In 1995, he wrote a couple different things, basically for reviews and for publications, essays and stuff like that. But then he started working at I think really, I don't know if his earliest ones probably were like Wildstorm stuff, yeah, like Gen 13, Mr. Majestic, Wildcats. He did a bunch of those ones in like 1999, and then he's gone on to work with some of the biggest name or the biggest characters in the industry. For DC, he's written pretty much all the big ones: Flash, Superman, Batman. He did a couple issues of Superman, Batman book. So I mean that's pretty cool. For Marvel Comics, he's worked on, again, some of the biggest names. X-Men. He's had separate books with Wolverine, Cable, Alpha Flight, Uncanny X-Men, the main X-Men. He did a Juggernaut book. Did a miniseries, or he's part of the miniseries Children of the Atom, which is really good. He wrote a couple Hulk stories. Thunderbolts, Deathlock, Iron Man, Captain America. He worked on some Avengers, Fantastic Four, Last Defenders, Spider-Man. I mean, some of the biggest names in Marvel Comics. And then as far as his creator-owned stuff goes, which is the stuff I'm going to focus on, because it's definitely what makes him awesome. I mean, he does all these awesome stories with other characters, but like I've done with all the previous 3 weeks, talk about his creator-owned stuff. When I talked about some of their stuff, and he has a lot of good stuff with a lot of those, because even Image Comics like Youngbloods or Youngblood, he has, those are technically not his characters. One of the ones I'm talking about is actually not one of his characters either, but he did he did some really good story arcs with them later on. He also worked, like I said, at Wildstorm with Gen 13. Again, not his character. Mr. Majestic, the Wildcats, The Authority, great series. Dark Horse Comics, he did a Kiss miniseries. He did a couple Star Wars things. My favorite things he did is one of the most darkest books I've ever read, just because it's real fucking violent and doesn't really have a happy ending, you'd say. I guess it's a good place to start. It's actually called Milkman Murders. The biggest thing about this book, and I won't go through the whole thing, but essentially it's about a dysfunctional family who ends up basically creating their own worst nightmare, all due to, not themselves. Basically, all right, this is how it is. I'll explain the story real quick. This family, husband, wife, 2 kids, a son and a daughter. They're all, Barbara's not that bad technically, other than she's just holding them together and not stopping them from being complete shitbags. But her husband Vincent is abusive, a wife beater, or a family beater, really, and a drug addict. Their son Fletcher is a soon-to-be homicidal maniac. He kills local animals and skins them in their basement. Their daughter, whose name is escaping me right now, I just looked it up. Ruthie, is a whore who's been sleeping with a bunch of her teachers. Her most recent one in this story is her gym teacher. And Barbara herself is this the linchpin of dysfunctionality because she doesn't stop it or go forward and, like, you know, have her husband arrested and have her son fucking therapied out and basically make sure her daughter doesn't get pregnant by an older man. But I digress. She is obsessed with a television show called Leave It to Mother. It is a 50s style family comedy, and it kind of keeps her sane in the world that she lives in. Well, one day, the milkman breaks in, or a milkman breaks in and rapes her, and she kind of starts looking at the world a little differently and seeing how terrible her family actually is, and decides that she's going to essentially shatter the TV that she is obsessively watched this show on. And when she does, the mother from the show appears to her. Yeah, pretty bizarre. And she basically begins to comfort Barbara. The character's name is Carol White. She basically encourages Barbara to discipline, air quotes, her dysfunctional family. So that's what essentially she does, and it goes from there. I won't tell you what happens. Just know that, again, not the happiest of endings, but really good book. 4 issues. You can probably find it in a collected edition somewhere, maybe. I don't know. It's an older book. Came out in 2004. But look it up if you can. It's pretty fucked up, but really good, too. With art by Steve Parkhouse? Yeah, Steve Parkhouse. He's British, right? Yeah, British. I was like, I think I know. He's worked on a bunch of different stuff. A lot of 2000 AD, Doctor Who magazine, and a couple other things. I mean, he's worked on a lot of different things, but he's does a lot of British related things. Doctor Who was one of them. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So Milkman Murders, check it out if you like to see some fucked up shit. And yeah, it's really good. I liked it a lot. Like I said, he worked on Youngblood, a handful of issues. I don't even know how many, to tell you the truth. He must have done. I mean, he did a couple volumes, if I'm not mistaken. Where is it? Did volumes 2? He did like, I don't know, he did like 30 something issues. I can't remember all of them. Well, volume 2 has a bunch of different ones in it, and he did a one shot of Ladytron. He did an annual in 2000. The Wildcats 3.0. He did there. What about Youngblood? Youngblood, he did. Hold on, I had it here a second ago. 8 issues? Yeah, 8 issues. Way back in 2008. Good stuff. I mean, obviously not his characters again, so I'm not really going to go into depth on that one. But what I will go in depth on is Godland. Godland is a book Joe wrote along with art by Tom. I think it's C.O.D.Y. I'm not too sure. Again, I'm terrible with names. You all know this. But anyways, ran from 2005 to 2012, grand total of 37 issues. Synopsis real quick. Astronaut named Adam Archer is the sole survivor of an ill-fated journey to Mars. When he then meets some aliens that basically transform him using cosmic radiation, I guess you could say, and transform him into essentially Earth's first superhero, and then send him back to Earth, essentially to show that there's intelligent life out in the universe. Anyhow, the series then jumps 4 years into the future, where he is an established superhero, and he works in a tower, out of a tower that the military gave him a base called Infinity Tower. He actually works there with his 3 sisters, Neela, Angie, and Stella, who are all actually real life, like, non-superpowered heroes. They are tremendously talented and overshadowed by their brother, of course, being a superpowered being. One is a military strategist, one is a fighter pilot, and the other one's a communications like expert, good with like computers and shit. And then it goes on throughout basically his battles with different supervillains, and then of course he has to work along with his sisters and everything like that, and different things like that. Is, you know, a bunch of different stuff goes on. Excellent book. Ran, like I said, 37 issues. You can get them in, well, if you can find them in trades or even in the hardcovers, there's 6 different trades. Yeah, 6 different trades and 3 different hardcovers you can try to find somewhere. They're all. It's an amazing book. A lot of people kind of forget about it, but it's one of the best ones out there. That I don't know if anyone's really ever heard about it. I don't want to say that, but it's very well renowned. I want to say award-winning too. I was nominated. I don't think I actually won. I'm sorry. Nominated for an Eisner Award in 2008. But it's fantastic. It's definitely something you should try to find and read. Probably might be available digitally. I'm not too sure. I didn't look it up. I could have, and I'm not going to right now. But yeah, so that's Godland. Fantastic book. Y'all should check it out. Next up is Officer Downe. Officer Downe is a book created by Joe Casey and with art by Chris Burnham. Officer Downe is a very, very interesting book. It is now collectible in a hardcover. I think just one now, right? Yeah, one graphic novel you can find. They reprinted it in 2017 to go along with the live action movie that was made based on it, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But Officer Downe is a very weird book, and that's actually a lot of Joe's stuff is pretty crazy, and I'll get to what made me want to read this next. I know I should have done it that way, but in my notes I had Officer Downe first before. But anyways, so Officer Downe is essentially this crime book set in this dystopian world where they essentially RoboCop this guy. Instead of being a robot, he's resurrected. And I'm not going to tell you how, because it's something you need to experience for yourself. Because there's a twist to it. And he basically is the violent end of the cops. He's pretty much got let loose. He can do whatever he wants, but they target him at these big over the top villains throughout the city. Villains that go by Headcase Harry, the Fortune 500, Zen Master Flash, and a few other ones. And in this, he is, I mean, first off, the book is outlandishly violent, as well as just completely sociopathic, because he has a gun that it's basically looks like a revolver with 2 barrels, but it has a clip. So that should tell you something. It's really bizarre. He drives a big oversized vehicle that they tried their best to do for the movie, but you can't do comic book in a movie without a real big budget. And if you were to look it up, you'll see why. Also, watch the movie. I'll tell you a little about the movie. So the movie itself, created by, well, I mean, obviously Joe Casey is the one that essentially, created it. But I'm trying to hold on. Let me pull up the actual film page here, because if you don't, you get the... so if you do, I should say, if you look this up, there is another movie called Officer Downe, but it's spelled differently. Officer Downe, the one we're talking about, is Downe, because it's used as his name. And there's a movie starring Stephen Dwarf that was released in 2013 called Officer Downe, but it's Downe, not the same movie. So if you're looking it up, watch yourself. Sean Carhan, Cranon? I don't know. He's known as Clown from Slipknot. If you guys know anything about Slipknot, he is the one that directed it. Joe actually wrote the screenplay for this, and then so it's awesome because he kind of gave his thumbs up to it. And then Sean directed it. It stars Kim Coates, which I know sounds really, but that's a guy, not a lady. Sam Witwer's in it. Reno Wilson, a bunch of other people you probably don't know who they are. And actually, Corey Taylor actually has a I can't really call it cameo. It's a role. He plays Headcase Harry in the movie. But there's a lot of bizarre shit that happens in this, and it's amazing. But anyhow, if you get a chance to watch this, and I don't know if it's available anywhere other than I bought it on iTunes. I should make Paige watch this. No, she likes Slipknot. She may not hate me forever. It's not a great movie. It's not intended to be a great movie. It's intended to be exactly what it is. Kind of a trauma-esque B-rated movie, but it's amazing. And they did a tremendous job with it. And if you like that kind of almost tongue-in-cheek, kind of surreal, overly top surreal stuff, you should check this out. Because it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think it's only available to buy digitally at different places. I don't see it anywhere else. But yeah, if you like ridiculous, over the top, like, you ever seen the movie Crank or Crank 2? If you've seen that, you kind of know what you're going for when you go. This is just beyond over the top. Actually, it's a good way of putting it. If you mix Crank 1 and 2 in RoboCop, that's kind of what you get with this. It's just ridiculous, and it's fantastic, and everyone should give it a watch if you can. But yeah, that's the movie based on the comic book by Joe Casey. Movie written by Joe Casey. But anyways, that's it for Officer Downe. It's fantastic, especially if you like violent stuff that's just ridiculous. You'll love it, and the art's fantastic because Chris Burnham is amazing. Speaking of Chris Burnham and Joe Casey, they did a book way back in the day. I say way back in the day. It wasn't even that long before. Let's see. Officer Downe was in 2010. Nixon's Pals was 2008. So, I mean, 13 years ago, whatever. So, Nixon's Pals is, I think, one of my favorite Joe Casey books. Other than... I'll say this. I think Nixon's Pals is my favorite Joe Casey book. Right behind another book, and I'll talk about it in a minute. I was going to save that one for last because I thought it was my favorite, but I think actually Nixon's Pals might be my favorite overall. Anyways, I digress. So Nixon's Pals is a book set in this world where superpowered beings exist. There's good ones and there's bad ones. And what I'm about to read is the pitch for it, I guess you could say, or like the kind of like the hook to try to get you interested in it, and it's a great way of putting it. So what's worse than being a supervillain in Los Angeles County? Being their parole officer, of course. So that's the one-liner almost. It's 2 lines technically, because it's there's a question mark in there. But basically, Nixon's Pals is basically about a parole officer that has to, well, his parolees are supervillains. It's outlandish. It's just, there's talking boobs. I don't know what else to tell you. It's fucked up, and it is awesome at the same time. And y'all should, everyone should read it because it's fantastic. I'll probably make Nixon's Pals my cover for this episode on the whole website. So check it out. I'll put a couple pages of different books in there because I did that for, I don't think I did that for anybody. I think I forgot. I'll probably forget this one too, but I'm trying to remember. I'll do Nixon's Pals as the cover. Oh, that actually has them right there. Yes! Oh, I'm totally using that cover. Or that's the cover of the graphic novel. The re-release of the graphic novel that was re-released in, it's near me too. Where is it? It was re-released. Hold on everybody. Nixon's Pal was reprinted in color with bonus material in 2015. So if you can find a copy of the graphic novel released in 2008, please let me know where you got it. Actually, I could probably look it up and see if it's available. I would love to have the original version of it, but I have the reprint in color, and I love it still. And it has extra stuff in it. Character stuff. There was character design stuff, that script pages, I think, in that one. And I think alternate cover or alternate character designs. I think that's all of that's on there. But it's fantastic. And everyone should read it. Nixon's Pals, yeah, it's fucking phenomenal. Story and just in general, but it's also an amazing book. The cover's fantastic, and it would just boggle anyone's mind what the fuck is going on, because it's real bizarre, because there's a lady with no mouth on it that has face on her boobs, and one has an eye patch. Oh, I love the book so much. Anyhow, that's Nixon's Pals. Everyone should check it out because it's fucking awesome, and I love it. So next up is Haunt. Haunt is a book not created by Joe Casey, and the reason I wanted to bring this up, like I said earlier, is it was actually created by a couple very large names, Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman. They did the series debut, and they worked on it for 18 issues, I think. Is that correct? I know Joe took over in issue 19, and I don't remember. He took over fully on issue 19, but I don't remember. I'm going to say, I think he just took 19. He did 19 through 28, and then 1 through 18, I want to say, were all written by Kirkman. But what makes this book awesome is the creators behind it, obviously. The story is pretty rad. Like I said, created by Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman, with pencils by Ryan Otley. Greg Capullo did layouts, and actually McFarlane inked the book, which is pretty cool. And then later on, Joe Casey and Nathan Fox took over. That's creative team in issue 19. It's pretty awesome. It's essentially, I don't want to, so basically, this Catholic priest named Daniel Kilgore is basically possessed, essentially, by his murdered secret agent brother, Kurt. And when they merge, or when Kurt takes over, he forms this essentially suit that encases Daniel's body and lets him imbibes him with powers and abilities that he didn't have as a normal human being. It's pretty rad. The art's fantastic in all of them. Nathan Fox does an amazing job with art after Ryan Otley left the book. But yeah, it's fantastic. You should check it out. I believe you can get Both sets of creators' books, the first 3 volumes are Kirkman's, and then the second set, 4 and 5, are the ones done by Joe Casey and Nathan Fox, and they're fantastic as well. So you check those out. Next book created by Joe Casey, which I'll be talking about, is The Bounce. The Bounce is a superhero book, unlike anything else you've really ever read, I would say. And so the creators and people publishing or advertising the book. But basically, The Bounce is the name of a superhero that the book is focusing on, who is the alter ego of Jasper Jenkins, a classic superhero name because it's got 2 J's. Bruce Banner. Duh. Sorry, that's an old joke about double names. But anyhow. So this book, Joe is the ultimate slacker. He the whole premise of this is him trying to balance his everyday life with being a superhero. And he does it in a way where he slacks off a lot. Like, at one point, he's smoking weed right before he goes out on a call. It's pretty funny. He is, like, literally the slackers of slackers. He meets a girl on the internet. He's got this, like, group of friends that he's kind of developed a family with. So he's trying to keep that, going. All sorts of weird shit. It's really fun. It's just a lot of fun to be had, really, throughout the whole book. And it's amazingly drawn by David Messina. I don't know how to say it. Messina. Like I said, the art's amazing. The story is phenomenal. It ran for 20. Oh my God! How long did The Bounce run for? The Bounce is his 12 issues. Bounce is a superhero name, by the way. It's not just a weird thing. And you can actually get it in a collection of called the Complete Edition, which is 270 pages, released in 2014, probably still available somewhere. It's pretty awesome. It's just a fun story. It's I want to say wholesome, but in a Joe Casey kind of way. I say that because it's wholesome in a way, but also not really that wholesome. I mean, there are covers with blood on them, but it's more of a wholesome in a satire type. I don't know how I'd explain it that way. I don't know. You should check it out. The Bounce is amazing. It's a really fun book. When I say feel good, it's like they say a feel good hero over the decade. It's tongue in cheek because he's a fucking shiftless layabout who smokes a lot of weed and basically fucks his life up in different ways. I don't know how. I mean, it's a terrible way of putting it, but you should check it out. It's super hilarious, and like I said, art's fantastic. It's this. It's a different take on superheroes, but in like a really good way. I'm trying not to spoil some shit in there that I really want to say out loud. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I'll stop there. It's fantastic. The Bounce is amazing, and y'all should check it out. Boom. There you go. Last but not least, my tied for a favorite book next to Nixon's Pals by Joe Casey is a book he did with an artist named Pietro. I don't know how to say his name. Pietra Kowalski. I don't know. First name's weird to me. I don't know how to pronounce it because it looks like it's spelled wrong, and I just don't know how to say it, and I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say it, but everyone calls him Kowalski from everything I've read, because I'm trying to figure out how to say his name, and I don't. I probably could use like, hey, Google, how do you pronounce this? But I didn't do it. But anyhow, Kowalski, we'll just call him that one. Kowalski is how you say his name. But Joe wrote this book about a guy who was a superhero who was retired. It's called Sex. There's a lot of reasons why. But anyways, so Simon Cook is a retired superhero who's retiring from his alternative lifestyle, and he's returning to a city he previously sworn to protect, known as is it Saturn City? Is that what it's called? I think it's Saturn City. Yeah, Saturn City, where he's going to try to live as a normal civilian. Yeah, that don't go so well for him. It is, again, I'll say this, a superhero book unlike anything you've seen before. Simon Cook is closer to Bruce Wayne than he is Superman. That should give you some info. Again, I'm trying not to give too much away about it, but basically, the reason it's called Sex is because there's a lot of sex stuff that goes on in it. The issues, the covers on them are fucking crazy, all of them. Even the trades have pretty gnarly covers, but they're all very kind of simple versus the original covers that came out, and it's fantastic. The art's fantastic, the covers are fantastic, the story's fantastic. Y'all should check it out. It is for mature readers, and it's pretty much like the most mature book without being like pornographic. I guess I could say that. I didn't give anything away. It's called Sex for a reason. But yeah, check it out. It's amazing. You can find it in, well, the first 5 volumes collect individual issues. Volume 6 is a graphic novel released as whole 2 years after the last issue came out, I think. Oh, it wasn't exactly 2 years, but it was around 2 years. But it came the last set of issues or issue was a graphic novel which was called World Hunger, which came out in 2019. I don't know if there's any more coming out. I really hope there is. But you know, it's good times. It's fantastic. It doesn't have an ending in Volume 6. That's what makes me think there's more coming, hopefully. Coming. That's gross. But anyways, check it out. It's really interesting. Again, I'm trying not to ruin anything by giving it away, but there's a lot of sex in it. That sounds fucking hilarious. But there is, and it's a fantastic book. You should all check it out. But that is tied for my favorite book by Joe Casey, of his creator-owned stuff. He's done a lot of other stuff, like I said, that's amazing, across many different characters from many different countries, or creative companies, like Marvel and DC, and technically Vertigo as well, because I technically think. Well, Wildstorm, I guess is that DC now, technically? No, Wildstorm's its own thing, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know how it works out. I think DC owns Wildstorm. I don't remember who owns Wildstorm, actually, to tell you the truth. Anyhow, he's done a lot of stuff from a lot of different companies. A lot of stuff that's not his own, a lot of stuff that is his own. I haven't read a lot of his outside the norm stuff. Like, he did some stuff for Dynamite with properties like Playboy and Flash Gordon, Miami Vice. I never read any of those. I did read his G.I. Joe books. I didn't talk about those. America's Elite, those were really good. They came out in 2006, I believe. Those are really good ones too. From Devil's Due, back in the day when they had G.I. Joe as a property. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode. I'm talking about Joe Casey, amazing comic book creator. And that wraps up January of 2021's theme of awesome comic book creators, where I was talking about Tom King, Matt Fraction, Jonathan Hickman, and of course today, this week, I talked about Joe Casey. So check them out. If you haven't heard on the other episodes, go back and listen to those. I ramble on just like I normally do, but about stuff that's about one person or so sometimes. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode. That's it for this month's episodes. I will be talking to you again next month with an all-new theme. I think based around Valentine's Day stuff. I haven't actually figured it out yet. But tune in next week when there's a brand new theme for February. Until then, like I always say at the end of these, let's be awesome.